Hello, everybody. I'm sorry we're a little bit late starting. Very, very pleased to be able to welcome very good colleagues who we've been working together with for a long time. Davide from Vietnam, Julia from Sub-Saharan Africa, and Hala from Egypt. Our colleague Lesley, who's based in Sri Lanka, like many of our Sri Lankan colleagues today, is experiencing electricity and connectivity problems, but will, I'm sure, make every effort to join us later. Just very quickly then, as way of introduction to this session, as we said at the beginning, there are, in a sense, three main groups within the teacher-educator community. We're all teacher educators, but our teacher educators who are working together in small groups, our engagement leads who we heard from earlier, who are working with those groups, and British Council colleagues, which we have three perfect examples with us this afternoon, this morning, depending wherever you are, who are working through communities of practice and with the teacher educators who are within those communities of practice to help deliver the outcomes of their programs. So what Davide and Julia and Hala will be talking about is how communities of practice fit in relation to CPD opportunities for teachers into what they do in country. Over to you.
Thanks, John, and it's good evening I'm actually in Bali this week in Indonesia, so good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. As John says, I'm the academic manager for Vietnam and Indonesia. Currently in Indonesia. I'll be flying back to Vietnam tomorrow, so it's great to be with everybody, and it's been a fascinating symposium so far, some really interesting sessions to observe and listen to, which is fantastic. Yeah, unfortunately, our colleague Lesley, I've just got a message from her. She can't get in. Maybe she can join us in the next 20 minutes. I'm just putting the timer on. But we'll proceed away. I'll go to my colleague Hala first, just for a few words of introduction. Hala, to build on what John was saying.
Hi, Davide and John and Julia and Lesley and everyone. Greetings from Egypt. I'm so delighted to be part of this symposium, and I've been enjoying all of the sessions since early morning. My name is Hala, and I live in Egypt, and I work for the British Council for 12 years. And my current job is to lead on the professional development programs in Egypt and the opportunities we offer to the public schools here.
Thanks, Hala. And over to you, Julia.
Hello, everybody. Again, very pleased to be here. I've been attending some of the sessions. I'm based in Ethiopia, and I'm the English Connects lead for Sub-Saharan Africa. English Connects is now a global program for the British Council, and it's about providing individual teachers and teacher educators with online resources and opportunities to improve their classroom and training practice. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Hala. Yeah, as I say, Lesley, maybe she can join us, maybe she can't, from Sri Lanka. We'll see how we get on. But basically, we've only got 20 minutes. It's quite a short slot for our panel discussion. But what we'd like to do in that time is think, as John said in his introduction, think about what we're doing in terms of our CPD interventions with teachers as teacher educators, and how do communities of practice, how can they or how do they fit into those. And that's what we're going to discuss. And hopefully by the end of the 20 minutes, we can think a little bit more about how they can support, how communities of practice can support capacity building and support networking. It was fascinating to hear the conversation that John had earlier with Beverly and Etienne Wenger Trainer about some of the essential elements of sustaining online communities of practice. So I really hope we can explore that in the next few minutes. we've just got two questions that we're really going to discuss. And the first question I'm going to put to each of our panelists and give them a little bit of time to talk about their programs, the context in which they're working, some of the interventions, and maybe some of the outcomes that they hope to get from their CPD interventions, and to what extent the communities of practice or the teacher activity groups we just heard from Mohammed a few minutes ago, to what extent they play in those interventions. So that's our first question, and I'll hand over to Hala first to talk about her experience from Egypt and from the Middle East and North Africa region of British Council. Hala?
Thanks, Davide. Let me share my screen very quickly to give our audience today a quick overview of what we're doing in Egypt. So I'd like to tell you about a new professional development program that we've been doing and offering to teachers in Egypt. It's T, or Teach, Engage, Aspire. The program happens across the country and everywhere in Egypt, and it's a partnership between the British Council and the Ministry of Education and Al-Azhar, and these are the two main official educational entities in the country. The program serves public school teachers in Egypt, and it covers around 10,000 teachers every year for 3 years, which is the life cycle of the program. And the main focus of the program is to help English teachers in Egypt improve their English language proficiency so that they can improve their students' English skills in return. And in doing this, we are using the British Council course English for Teaching as the main component of our training curriculum. And by the end of the program, after 3 years, we're hoping to build a cadre of communities of practice leaders who can take the professional development provision in Egypt to the next step. So how do we do this? We start every year by training a group of core teacher educators, who we call them later the TAGS facilitators. And we train this group of teacher educators on how to improve their English skills, but also how to improve their leadership skills and how to become and facilitate and lead on groups of adult learners. And in this regard, we use 2 courses, English for Teaching, as I mentioned earlier, and the COP leader skills. After they finish the training, this group of teacher educators meet groups of teachers in their local communities, and they meet them through what we call TAGs, or teacher activity groups. And this is one form of communities of practices, and these can be called differently in different parts of the world. So in Egypt, we call them TAGs. In other places, they can be called COPs or PLCs, for professional learning communities. And they meet the teachers twice a month. In these TAGs, or teacher activity groups, the teacher educators, or the TAG facilitators in this case, facilitate learning and encourage collaboration among the teachers within the TAGs. And you can see now that we have different layers of this network of teachers and teacher educators, and all of these layers are well connected through virtual COPs, or virtual communities of practice. And in Egypt, we use WhatsApp as an easy and efficient means of communication. So British Council team is connected to local coordinators who are connected to teacher educators who are connected to teachers through WhatsApp groups. And to maintain the level of motivation and to keep the teachers motivated and ensure good level of participation within the TAGs, we ensure we celebrate the teacher and the teacher educator of the month, and we reward them, and also we open up further professional development opportunities in the future. And we had an example today from Egypt, Mohammed Faiz, who gave a brilliant presentation on his involvement in the online, or the global online teacher educator community. But why do we do this? Why do in Egypt we follow this particular approach? There is a very big pool of teachers in Egypt, like hundreds of thousands, and obviously we cannot train every single teacher in Egypt. That's why tags or teacher activity groups enable us to reach as many teachers as we can in the country. And we think that tags are effective and sustainable because, first of all, they are based on the actual needs expressed by the teachers themselves. And they are sustainable because through the tags, teachers take ownership of their own CPD and they collaborate together and decide on their CPD pathway. And on the long run, we think ministries of education following this model of CPD can become more self-dependent and take over the professional development provision in Egypt in the future. And if you look at the whole outcome of the process, you can see now that the teacher educators can build and they can see for themselves a professional development and even a career pathway. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to be talking about the English Connects Regional English Teacher Educator Group, which was originally set up in 2020 as part of the English Connects program, which was funded by the Foreign and Development Office. And originally, the program aimed to improve the teaching and learning of English, mainly in countries where the British Council doesn't have offices. And the main part of the program was building the capacity of teacher educators who would then cascade their training to teachers. And part of this work was each teacher educator would set up their own WhatsApp group to form a community of practice with their teachers. Now, when the pandemic came, we were not sure about whether we could have any funding to continue the program. So while we were waiting, we decided to set up a regional WhatsApp group for all the teacher educators. There are 274 from 10 participating countries to join and take part in regional webinars. First looking at the British Council's professional practices for teacher educators, and then kind of starting to hand it over to them to look at their training needs, what they needed to develop in terms of those professional practices. So we started doing that. Once we got more, plus we had a few issues. We started with Zoom. Then we had to move to Teams, but we found with Teams that the teacher educators couldn't connect at all. So we then started using the WhatsApp platform more for live discussion. So we would just hold a discussion at a set time and the teacher educators would either text their comments or actually make a recording of what they wanted to say. And we had around about 40 teacher educators participating in this. Then once our funding was confirmed again, we then formalized the group a little bit more and started to deliver regular regional webinars and getting the teacher educators to lead on some of those to develop their skills. And the group was used as a pre and post discussion group for the webinars. Then for a while, the group was a little bit dormant because there was no moderator. So some, there wasn't regular contributions, but we recently revived it with the introduction of British Council Global Webinars for teacher educators. And this gave an opportunity for us to revive the group again because since the funding had stopped in many of these participating countries in March 2021. So this revived the group as we brought on a moderator again, and we use the group now to promote the global webinars and to hold monthly live discussions around these webinar topics. And they're at a set time, and the group becomes very lively with lots of contributions and discussion. At other times, the group, sometimes one of the teacher educators will post something they want to discuss with the group, and there's a bit of discussion going on. For example, one of them recently shared a supplementary materials he had written on climate change and asked for feedback on it. And then sometimes there are issues with inappropriate postings which have to be monitored and the person dealt with. The group is now around 508 members and is currently growing. It's now open to all teacher educators in sub-Saharan Africa, and we promote it through the regional Teaching English Africa website, plus our country Facebook pages. So basically, it demonstrates this is something that was set up during a CPD-based program that is now mushrooming through a global offer with a light wraparound touch to localize what is being discussed on a global basis. Thank you.
Yes, can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can, yes, thank you, yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, sorry, I just dropped out, or the connection dropped out. It's at the end, right at the end of Hala's, and just thank you, Julia, for very seamlessly going into your discussion. I think we've just got about 5 minutes left. Julia, it was really fascinating to hear the evolution of the program and maybe some of the challenges as well there. So Hala, can I maybe turn back to you? In terms of your program in Egypt, what were some of the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them? Maybe some of the lessons learned from the evolution of your program. Because again, it was interesting to see Mohammed's comment about the scale of ambition with 10,000 teachers per year. He said it's a great target in the Q&A.
Yeah, one of the things
So
we
what were some of
learned.
the challenges as you kind of scaled up the program?
Right. So one of the challenges and one of the big lessons we learned is about the networks of teachers and teachers networking in general. So we learned that it's not about the size of the network, and it's not just a network in theory and the numbers and the names, and you think they are connected. But we learned that it's really useful to ensure that this network is well connected within the network itself, and teachers speak to each other, and teachers take care of each other, and also from our side to regularly maintain and do some maintenance to check that the network is working and the system is flowing well. And I've listened to this afternoon to Etienne's work and about the meaning of communities of practice and and how the value is actually on the members of the community and the people, not only on the outcome or the final achievement of a meeting or a gathering or something. So we put a lot of effort and time in fixing and repairing the network, and wherever we think the system is broken or the network is not flowing or the communication is not flowing well, we step in and we maintain and we encourage teachers to communicate with each other. And the outcome, after some years working on this, we started to notice that the teachers are well connected across systems and across schools and across regions and across governors in Egypt, and they know each other. And the benefit for this of this for us is that we were able to address issues wherever you are in the country. It doesn't matter where you are, we can reach you and we can address the issues, and we can think about the best course of action and to provide the appropriate support for the teachers. Davide, I hope you hear me.
He's, I think he may be frozen again. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Hala. Yeah, I think it's really fascinating to hear your experiences, both yours and Julia's, and also to learn from those. And again, I like the fact that you reference what they're yeah, sorry, talking about network connectivity, my connectivity is
Davide,
can you hear me?
You're coming in and out. So while Davide is struggling with his connectivity, I think we need to bring this session to a close. Hala and Julia and Davide, if you can hear us, thank you. Really interesting. And there were two things that we'll come back to, I think, and that pick up on, as Hala was referring to, the value, if you like. And one of the things that you mentioned, Hala, was about perhaps the value of communities of practice of tags to the partner, the Ministry of Education, for example, that you're working with, which we haven't spoken about. How does working in this particular way add value to our partners? I thought that was very interesting. And I think the other one, the thing that you said, Julia, about that community being dormant, and then you brought in an e-moderator. And that comes back to the question that we asked Etienne and Beverly around about leadership, about do you need a facilitator or a moderator? So some really interesting, different perspectives on the value and the benefit and the, if you like, the modality of communities of practice. Davide, I'm sorry, you are back now. Did you want to add anything?
No, I think, yeah, I'm glad, John. I hope you can all hear me. Sorry for keep dropping out. It kind of just goes back to Hala's point about networks and connectivity, both networks in terms of content, and as Julia was saying, building those networks and making sure the members take ownership, but also connectivity networks in terms of the actual networks, the connectivity. So it's really interesting, a kind of live example there of some of the challenges we have. I think it's been fascinating to hear, again, Hala and Julia's experiences, particularly in the context of some of the earlier examples, some of the group presentations earlier, and also linking it back to what, as you said, John, what Beverly and Etienne were saying as well about, this, not tension, but again, it was interesting, Etienne's comment about the British Council and how we try to do everything sort of as perfectly as possible. I thought it was a really interesting comment, when, as we know, things don't always go according to plan. Yeah, we do need to have backups. It's great to hear that. It's great to hear some of the examples from Hala and Julia about how we can drive those community-based networks.
That's right. Okay, then. We're going to take a short break then now, just to get a little bit of fresh air. And communication, as Sumira says, is the key to success of any program. How true that is. Okay, so we're going to break and we will be back in 5 minutes. Right, we'll be back in 5 minutes. The next session, where we'll be talking a little bit about our future plans. So thank you so much indeed, Davide, Hala, Julia. I'm glad you've enjoyed the session and the other sessions, and we'll be in touch very soon. Thank you so much indeed. Take care.
Thanks, John. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.